And I don't know you well enough. I don't know who is not tenacious enough. Even in this room of winners, I know some of you have hit your cap. You're good. You're not hungry anymore. You hit a thing and you're like, now you're in neutral. You're like, this is a good number, this is where I'm at. And for many times, for good reasons. You feel like you didn't have the right work-life balance. You do have 15 and 16-year-old kids and you're like, wait a minute, they're about to go to college in 2 minutes. Maybe you're tired, there's a million reasons. But I think that's why number 2 means so much to me. Lying to yourself is the quickest way to lose. And I'm stunned how good we are at it. And when I think about talks like this, like in this exact nanosecond, I'm like, man, if one person is listening right now in this room and decides to go to their hotel room tonight, look them in the face and stop lying about something they're not good at in this or even their personal life, that's how you that's what therapy does. That's what real stuff does. And I'm telling you, I challenge you to understand, especially in the framework of this business, especially, by the way, complete side note, putting up the rankings of everybody's numbers in front of you, that's some gangster shit. The concept of, let's be a family, but look, John's better than Sally, kill each other. This is what I mean by purple. This is why this was so exciting for me. I'm like, shit, this company's kind of like me. Like, this is weird. Like, it's like, let's be, like, I created this Pokemon meets Sesame Street intellectual property that I'm building, another one of my avenues to get to my goals. It's going really well. And one of the star characters in that world is Kind Warrior. It's a really brain twist, right? Like, how can you be like a gangster, but be deep in business and be deeply kind? And I know what's happening in the world right now. We're really in this generational warfare of like boomers and Gen X versus Gen Z, and like, it's all very blurry. But it's amazing to me when I look at this, how easy this is to win. It's there if you're willing to go there. It's there if you care. Like, it's just there. Meaning, for example, I have 2,000 employees. I spend, I don't know, 2-3 hours a day on average with one-on-one meetings for 15 minutes at a time with employees at any and every level. This company, when I looked at its growth curve, did anybody else notice like how much revenue it was doing after 10 years and 15 years, and then what happens? The commitment, the DNA of this company, the founder, the way this was built, the biggest opportunity is for you to actually double down on that DNA in a contemporary way. Using the technology of the day. Just literally texting somebody while you're here back on the team that's done a good job and be like, you're doing a good job. I don't think people understand these micro deposits, how much impact they have. It's a big deal. And I know like a lot of the stuff I talk about sounds like grandma talk, but it is 100% the game we're playing, because I want to remind people, people are starting to get more and more options to not work for you. I'm really interested about this. People ask me a lot of like, why did I invest in all these companies before everyone else did? Or why do I, and it's completely based on number 8, which is curiosity. For example, as I started digging in and getting more educated, this concept of the one brand under LinkedIn, and they're gonna make content, and then what are you gonna do about it? I'm pretty sure that the far majority of the people in this room are not gonna commit the level of hours and time into reposting the content that this logo posts on LinkedIn and add their 2 cents and DJing capabilities, because you're not gonna see the direct, quick ROI on it, right? Love it, beautiful. Meanwhile, because I've been following social since 2005, LinkedIn today, from an organic reach and from an ads ROI standpoint, is the most fertile ground that I've seen since Facebook 2012, especially from a B2B standpoint. You cannot comprehend what one thoughtful 2-minute video can do for business development. Instead of you hunting, it starts to come to you if you're committed to content. The reality is playing a marathon in a sprinter's world is always challenging. But to me, I'm very curious about what percentage of this group, and when I leave, there was something I wanted to tell the guys backstage. I'm like, whomever in this room actually goes on the attack this year needs to be the focal point of next year's conference, because how much content y'all make on LinkedIn in 2024, and they're putting you on third base. This is more like a franchisor framework than being a pure entrepreneur or being a pure corporation. The fact that they're gonna put you on third base and you just get to be a DJ instead of being an original songwriter is like huge. But it's not easy. Like a lot of you are insecure of how you look on camera and you don't want to deal with negative feedback, say the wrong thing, blah, 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 blah. But if I can leave you with anything besides self-awareness, I couldn't push you harder before, and this is a big thing on curiosity. The biggest thing I'm fascinated by is why people say no before they say maybe. I think about this all the time. It's happening right now with AI. The amount of people in this room that have real opinions about AI because they read one or two headlines or one of their friends said something and have done no homework on it actually is fascinating to me. It's what we do with technology. There's a lot of people in this, actually, let's see how honest this room is, because I see some gray hairs like I have in the crowd. Friends that are a little bit older in here. How many people remember when they said that they would never get a cell phone because their pager and beeper was good enough? Raise your hands, raise them high, tell the truth. And I'm telling you, several are holding it down. How many people here said they would never go on Facebook back in 2006, 7, and 8, and now have Facebook? Raise your hands. A lot more than that. Bunch of fucking liars. I didn't know that about you, Stockton, but I'll take it. The bottom line is, literally electricity was demonized in our society as demons in your house. And people held off and kept doing candles. Technology is always demonized. Every single person here, when they grasp what AI is and what it means for sales, in 5 years we'll be using it every day, just like a search engine, just like an iPhone. This is a big one, you won't lie about this one. How many people said they were never getting an iPhone because their BlackBerry had buttons that they needed to touch them? That's what I think about. What I'm doing right now is trying to give you examples of knowing 98% of this room is gonna underpost on LinkedIn next year and knowing it has a direct correlation of getting new business. We're the fastest growing agency, independent agency in the world in advertising. Our entire business model is my content on LinkedIn. We have the lowest new business overhead. We spend nothing on sponsorships, no bullshit fucking conference events, no booths, nothing. LinkedIn, free. The world is constantly changing. I couldn't encourage you enough to understand what this content means, and what I love about this room is you know your craft. A lot of people struggle with content because they don't know what they're talking about. And opinions are fine, hot takes are fine, but actually going into deep work, like if you, and by the way, not everybody has to do audio or video. Written word is phenomenal. If you're awkward or embarrassed or you don't want to make that jump, I get it. But you can do written word. You do 3 powerful, in detailed sentences, paragraphs on top of content, you will be stunned. I just encourage you greatly, because the only thing that is universal in our society is that whoever has the attention has the leverage. You know what's going on in the world? It's called the media infrastructure in our society has shifted. Have you ever wondered why when there's a coup in a country, a coup d'etat, that while they go to the palace to get the guy or the gal, they also go to the newspaper, radio station, and TV station? Whoever controls the message has the leverage. For the first time in history, we as human individuals have the ability to have scale. I get more consumption on my LinkedIn than CNBC gets viewers. Real. That's absurd. That makes no sense. Not the way we all grew up. This is a massive opportunity, and so I highly encourage, you don't need to do it, but don't just be no before you said maybe. Spend 5, if you want to grow your business, I think it's worth 5 hours of actually really tasting it, because we are unbelievable headline readers in America. You have unlimited opinions about stuff that you've never even spent an hour researching. There's been many great investments I've made in my portfolio, and they all take on, to give you a little bit more value for the audience, let me tell you what I've now realized 25 years in that I look for. I have to love the idea and the person. And every time I've either loved just the idea or just the person and made an investment, I've lost. So I think if you're doing early stage investing in someone's company or an internet company or even like a local baker, like I'm starting to think about investing in small businesses more because I'm starting to notice what works. And so like if I go look at a young lady or a young man who has like a bakery or like a tea shop or like a healthy clean food store or a t-shirt shop or a bike shop, I'm starting to think more about like, could this be the next Starbucks? Could this be the next Toys R Us? When I look for that, I know now that I'm looking for, I like the idea and the person, and I've made too many mistakes with picking only one, so I have to be 2 for 2 now, and that's what I recommend to everybody who's looking. If somebody's asking you to invest and you've got a couple dollars to invest in something, even if it's like a local dentist who wants to open up another office, believe in dentistry and believe in Ronnie or Sarah, the dentist.
My sister's a dentist if you want to invest.
I love it. I love that I use that analogy.
How do you think about growing your money? Are you allocating certain percentages to certain things or?
Yeah, as you know, recently in the last 5 years, I've gotten to a place where I have a money management team and they're pushing me. I'm still way too entrepreneurial. I'm not maximizing my money. I would still rather gamble. And it's really not gambling. I'm just saying that because I want everybody to understand what I'm actually doing. I'd rather entrepreneur than invest. I'd rather lose my money going for a home run than make 7% on my money and have it sit there. And that's because I'm trying to maximize joy, not money. I'm gonna leave more than enough money for my grandchildren, let alone my children, right? So I'm not here trying to maximize my money. I'm trying to maximize my joy. I've worked really hard for a really long time and have really done right by my dad and my brother and many others. And you know, at this point in my life, I'd like to enjoy the process of making or losing money as much as possible. And so I don't think my advice is right for everyone, but I think it's right for a lot of people. And I've done that my whole life, by the way. Some of my best investments, Facebook, Twitter, things of that nature, I didn't have a lot of money. I wanted to make money through joy, and it was fun to bet on the future that I saw, and it worked out. And so I think, you know, even if you have $5,000 in savings, if you'd rather buy 100 shares of your favorite company's stock because you rock their clothes or use their video games or whatever it is, that's a good debate. Are you better off to enjoy it than to have a guaranteed return in a 401k, right? Something worth debating. Just gotta know yourself and know what you're trying to maximize for. If you're trying to maximize for money creation, then you should let professional money managers handle it. I didn't invest in Uber twice when it was my best bud, and like it was because I was a little cash strapped and I valued short-term cash over long-term opportunity. That probably cost me anywhere between $250 and $600 million, which is more money than I have right now, so that was huge. When Stephen Ross bought a piece of VaynerX, he offered me a piece of the Dolphins instead of money. I emotionally said no because I love the Jets too much. That was obnoxiously bad. I switched from YouTube to something called Vidler early in my career because I liked the tagging system of Vidler. That probably left me not being able to build 10 times bigger audience on YouTube. I was there in 2006 before anybody was there. And I really, really missed that moment. I was right and then I was wrong. I mean, I could literally give you another 100 examples of, these are big ones. These are big. So I'm on vacation just thinking, because that's what I do when I'm laying in the sun doing nothing, I can't help it. And I'm like, you know what? Fucking Netflix is gonna be huge. So I never buy stock. So like, it was like even weird for me to reach out to like my financial advisor. I'm like, I wanna buy stock. Because usually if I have stock, it's because I invested in the company early, and called my investment team and said, I'd like to put some of my cash into Netflix stock. As we're talking through we're kind of in the middle of details, the Wi-Fi was back and it hung up. I call back and it doesn't work. Beep, 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 like I don't have this, I'm trying to walk around for a minute or two and I can't get the service. I'm like, you know what, fuck it. I got back, I walked all the way back to my seat, texted my team and said, we'll get to this when I get back from vacation, never do it. I mean, the number I said I wanted to put, hefty 7 figures of return. I was that right and that early. I've got too many. And anybody I think who's fairly successful in business has too many too, because it was all those decisions that got them there, which means there was a lot of other decisions they either got horribly wrong or missed out on opportunity. Not to mention, the way I actually think about life is it's the meetings and opportunities that you don't even know that you missed. Last night, there was a dinner with a bunch of leaders of agencies that at the last minute, for family reasons, I canceled. That could have been the meeting that changed the course of my career. So I just listed 4 or 5 good ones. I promise you, the 10 top biggest mistakes I've ever made were things I didn't show up for or didn't say yes to that would have led to a remarkable opportunity that I have no idea even happened. I think once you get to that place mentally and realize you're constantly making mistakes and you're okay with it, it actually liberates you to enjoy this process more. And I think too many people struggle with that.
How do you make sure that you're not straying away from the things that give you joy? Because I'm sure as you're scaling, it's easy when HR gets involved and you have so many employees to lose sight of the things that give you joy just because you're running a larger operation. So how do you make sure that doesn't happen?
By hiring people to do the things that you don't love.
So what do you absolutely love in your business that you would never hire out?
Well, at the scale we're at now, you hire, but you still do it. So for example, the things I love is HR. I love my people. So even though we have a full pet team, people, experience, and talent, we wanted to rebrand it once I realized people didn't like HR. Even though we have a huge team, I still allocate a lot of time, but I get to be the cherry on top, not the sundae. You understand? It's not a requirement, it's a joy to have. I love selling. So even though Kaylin, our chief business officer, and the new business team is doing a remarkable job this year, and this is the best year that that team has ever had, I still join a ton of them because I like selling our company. I like being in the big meetings where there's a crossroads in the relationship. So even though Nick and Lisa Buckley and all these head of partnerships and account are remarkable what they do, I like joining the occasional meetings that really matter, not because I don't trust them, because I enjoy being a part of them. But at first, I'll give you a different example. We hired a lawyer and we hired him fast. Mark Yudkin, when we couldn't afford it, because there was no joy or knowledge or understanding of anything legal on my end, and I did not want to even begin to learn it, right? We hired AJ, my brother, and my dad have always handled the finances. In essence, we're the CFO. And we hired a CFO pretty early in our journey, even though AJ liked it. And so like, if AJ didn't like being a CFO and handling the books, we would have hired somebody to do finances day one. So those are examples of how I think about it and how I think it would help people to maximize joy. Hire for things you don't like to do, and even though you hire for things you like to do, spend more time on that because you're doubling up on sale. This company has a high happiness ratio for how big it is and always grows in top line revenue. It's because I'm doubling down on HR and new business. I got fortunate. I lived in a cocoon of an immigrant family where like having a roof over your head and having clothes was like, and food was like a huge win. Both of my parents did not care about other people's opinions. They didn't flash. They didn't need to go buy something expensive. So that became a framework. I also got very lucky that I was so loved and my house was so happy because of my mom when we were super poor when we came to America. So I learned at a very young age that money and stuff did not bring happiness. So I was built for it. I was trained for it, and then I practiced it. You know, I think in high school, instead of going to the cool party on a Friday night, I decided to do a baseball card show and sell cards because I was an entrepreneur. I love the process more than, you know, playing spin the bottle, though that was cool, and I wanted to do that at 15. I really just wanted to be an entrepreneur, and so I've always had a cocoon, and it just has continued to accelerate, and this is why I talk a lot about this. It's crazy when you realize the prettiest girls in your high school, the richest guys in the world right now, how insecure they are, right? How much everything they do is to impress others that they don't even know. And I get it, like your parent, you know, your dad never loved you the way you wanted and you want to stick it to them, or the girl broke your heart and you want to make a ton of money to prove to her, you know, like I get it. And you know why I get it, and you'll laugh given our connection. I actually understand the rest of the world predominantly through the lens of being a football fan. And I mean this, the only place I envy, like I genuinely hate New England Patriot fans. and I mean that. And I know, like, I heard the laughs and I appreciate it, but I'm gonna be incredibly transparent and like give you an insight. So much of what makes me understand the balanced world is my complete irrationalness of being a New York Jets fan and knowing what envy and jealousy and I'm hurt, so I want you hurt. I'm completely inappropriate at football games. You should have seen me yelling at Taylor Swift from the seats last
Gary,
week.
we'll have to talk about that as a Swiftie.
I mean, like, I get it. Like, it's incredibly challenging to be jealous and hurt and not feel in control. All things I feel as a Jet fan, none of the things I feel in life. So I love everyone from a race and gender and religion and income level and part of the world standpoint in real life because I'm fulfilled, I'm happy, I'm at peace. It's simple. Do you know how excited I get when people outperform me in my own industries? Of course I'm competitive and I'd like to win, but I don't hate. I don't tear down others. But in football I do. In football, and because I feel that to the core of my soul, it makes me realize, oh my God, I do this in this silly arena known as the NFL. This is how the world is living their lives. There are people who actually hate other people because they see politics differently. That blows my mind. Or for the people in the room, they hate people that are successful in a business that they're in because they're better than them at it. I don't want that for anybody here because I only have to be angry for 4 hours every Sunday for 4 months a year. Everybody else here is doing that 365 days a year for their life, and I don't like that.
How do you really live and breathe gratitude every day, and how can we do the same?
Do you know that I never write down 3 things I'm grateful for? I don't meditate on it. I do nothing like that. I just do it every second of my life. Do you know that multiple times a day, I will think about things that are challenging that I hope don't happen, like getting a phone call that someone I love had a stroke, that someone I love is diagnosed with a disease, that someone I love suddenly died in a car accident, because these are real things that happen to real people. I also struggle with complete delusion. Do you understand that everyone in this audience lives a remarkable life in comparison to the 8 billion people on Earth? Do you know that 735 million people on Earth, almost 10%, do not have access to clean water? Clean water. Like, I don't know, there's some water. Like, do you, like the jacket you're wearing, the hat, this is a $40 hat.
Well, it's from Express, it's not Oud.
But you know what's so amazing about that, right? Like, think about this, like, the fact that you on a Friday evening, afternoon are able to watch this or be in the audience, like, I don't think people understand. And I don't expect people to understand. I know I got lucky in being born in one of the most horrible places in the world. I know I got lucky by living with 8 family members in a studio apartment for multiple years. I know I got lucky that my parents basically didn't buy me toys because that's not what we spent our money on. I know that I'm hungry because I wasn't fed. I know that I'm not entitled. I know. But for everyone who's listening, you have to go through the work. On the flip side, I grew up not eating healthy, not being told that that's important, not working out. And at 38 years old, I changed that. And for the last 10 years, I've put in the work for something that didn't come natural. I also grew up with a mom that's the sweetest, but she lacked candor, which meant I lacked candor. And candor has been disproportionately my kryptonite in my professional and personal career, and that I can go backwards and tell you everything that has not worked for me in the last 25 years, and I can tell you immediately that the seed of that not working out was my inability to deliver candor to somebody, which led to resentment on my end, or me being sloppy and them not respecting me for my lack of candor. So, and I know I've worked on that the last 4 or 5 years after a lot of pain professionally and personally. So I would argue, though I can understand that people in the audience can't do gratitude the way I can, that I've worked very hard. I know that people have put in the work to work on their alcoholism. They've put in the work to work on their depression. And I just challenge everybody here to not just say, well, it doesn't come natural to me, like, work on gratitude. And the way you work on gratitude is, if writing it down 3 times in the morning works, well then actually do it every day, not for 2 weeks, January 1st to the 13th, and then give up. Like, work is work. And if you're unhappy and you've got some money, go to therapy. And if you don't have money, go start listening to more positivity. Go take a walk, work on your health. Like, you are accountable, you are capable. Don't blame the president, don't blame your grandma, don't blame your mom, don't blame the mayor. Blame yourself. And don't blame yourself like I suck and beat yourself up. Have compassion to you that this is my circumstance, but I can fix it. And all of this stuff, bringing it down to the ground instead of the clouds that I'm in right now, all of this stuff has a direct correlation of you being a good founder and CEO. Because it's hard. And the real issue is who you are when it's hard is the whole game. Because your team doesn't need a leader that is nice when it's good, but then when you lose a big account or something goes bad, you're yelling and screaming and scaring everyone. A real leader is best when it's worse. I want to also show compassion. I hate that we've weaponized words. Privilege. I promise you, everyone in America is privileged at some level. Like, you can look at privilege from a lot of angles. Do you know that I believe that if you were born into extreme wealth, you're less privileged?
I've heard you say this. Will you expand on it to the audience? I think it's super fascinating.
Yes, I think people have weaponized privilege, and I don't want people to feel bad that are sitting in the audience who happen to be fortunate enough that their parents or grandparents have done well. Like, I don't view that as privilege. I believe that if you are second or third generation wealthy and you're a purebred entrepreneur, you're in a very precarious spot because no one's ever gonna give you credit because everyone's always gonna say, mommy and daddy put you on. That stinks. I think we need to stop weaponizing things. Stop judging everybody. Like, everybody's got something, I promise you, everybody's got something. Instead of judgment and envy and jealousy, why don't we all lean into compassion, sympathy, and empathy and understand that everybody's got something. The amount of people that come up to me and just assume my life is good because I have a blue check mark and some followers and a couple of dollars, get the fuck out of here. I want to put real pressure on the framework, on the concept, on what's actually happening here, which is we are living through a transitional, transformative technology known as the internet. It is now finally 25 years old and mature. Everybody has it. Everybody has it all the time, and the whole world is getting flipped upside down. And you have an opportunity to take a piece of it. The problem is everybody wants to take the whole piece. Everybody's like, Gary, I'm gonna build the next Twitter or Uber or Facebook. Everybody's gonna build $1 billion company. News alert, you're not building $1 billion company. How about just building a company that you like and makes you happy? How about just doing something you like every day? Everybody's got to, right? Like, how about that? How about people in here realizing that they have a job that might pay them a little bit more than something else, but they hate it, but they're not willing to live in a more humble home or drive a more humble car, and so they have a miserable job just to pay for shit that they have to impress other people that they don't even like. How about that fucking conversation? It has never been easier, and I don't like using the word easy, but I'm gonna say it. It has never been easier to make $100,000 a year because of this. The problem is everybody thinks you have to make $1 billion, and the problem is nobody has humility to live a $100,000 lifestyle. I think we have to change the conversation in our society. Not in Southeast Asia, not in Malaysia, not in America. 7 billion people need to change the conversation of what success looks like. It is not to make $1 billion, it is to actually wake up in the morning and be in a good mood. And whether that is me, who loves the game of entrepreneurship so much that he goes so hard every day because he just loves what he does, or if it's somebody who only wants to work 25 hours a week because all their other passions are so interesting to them and that's what is good for them, we have to allow for everything. We have to allow for everything because everything is true and everything is real. And you need to figure out My biggest fear of my popularity is that you think you have to do it like me. The only hope I have when you look at me is that you try to figure out your version of you that makes you as happy as my version of me makes me. I want to remind everybody here, I'm 43 years old, which means when I loved entrepreneurship in America, nobody else did. It was not popular, only school. So I loved this thing before it was this thing. And guess what? When the economies collapse, everybody's gonna go off of entrepreneurship and go back to a job, and I'm gonna still love this thing when it's not as cool as it is today. When there isn't sneakers and fans, I'm gonna still like it because it's mine. I've always done it and I always will. You need to figure out that for you. Not what your parents think, not what I think, not what the comments think, you. If we can reframe success, we can reframe everything. Even notice how I jumped in on that fastest question. You know, if you can do it meaningfully, if you can do it with joy. I don't know why people would compromise being happy for money. It's literally people think money makes you happy, and we know, and everybody knows people that have money that are not happy, and yet we give up happiness every day in the pursuit of money thinking that will buy it for us. To me, it's why don't we fight for figuring out what makes you happy and then live within the means of what you make? Because there's unlimited people on earth who make less than $60,000 a year who are very happy. Yet, we're not very good at telling that story.
Do you think before you had money, you thought also that money would make you happy?
No, because I was always fighting for, this is why I'm so passionate about this. I was pumped at $40,000 a year because I was doing what I loved. I was helping my dad build a business for him. I was going to garage sales on the weekend because I wasn't getting paid much to buy shit, you know, and flip it. I was watching the Jets and I was going on dates and I was living within my means. I didn't have the capacity to take a private flight. I didn't have the capacity to own an expensive car. I didn't have the capacity to have bougie things like a driver or housekeeper, things of that nature. But that had no impact on 23, 25, 27, 29, 31-year-old Gary. I didn't aspire to have those things. I aspired to have the happiness I had, and I fight for that.
When have you felt in the last 5 years furthest away from being happy?
Personally, like there's always trials and tribulations, and I don't really go too much in my personal life, but I think all of us go through different challenges of things in our personal life. And by the way, one of the reasons I think I'm happiest is because I keep my personal life private. I really recommend that for people as all of us start to live public lives. You don't have to be Charlie D'Amelio or Logan Paul to have your life public. Many of us are posting our boyfriend and girlfriend or significant other. We're posting real life stuff about this. I promise you, if you give the world your private life, they take it. So, A, that's something worth considering for everybody who's listening, no matter, even if you don't aspire to be Taylor Swift, like you give your outer circle, not your family and friends, like your outer circle, you give them permission to be in your relationship, they own your relationship. Something worth thinking about. Anyway, to answer you professionally, I had a really tough day. I don't know if it was the furthest from happiness, but it was a real gut punch, and we started with this. The day I realized my candor made me wrong in 1,000 relationships that I had in my mind, not them. Because in my 20s and 30s, when I would fire someone after them being there for 2 years and they sucked, no bullshit, they stunk the whole time, but I never said anything and I didn't manage them. You know, I didn't make it better. I just let it sit. And I thought I was doing them a favor, right? But what I was doing was I was creating entitlement and I was creating resentment. I was creating entitlement and resentment. Entitlement on their end, resentment on my end. And then I would fire them. And they would be shocked and mad. And fuck you, Gary, at the most extreme. Because usually I was like so close with them that they would feel comfortable doing that. Especially in the liquor store, you know, stock guys don't give a fuck. And all the kids I hired early on at VaynerKids, I was mad at them. I was like, how do these people not see it? Are you fucking kidding me? I've been doing charity for the last 2 years. 5, 6 years ago, when I had that moment, that come to Jesus moment, like really that day or two or week, that it was clear in the front of my head, not in the back. And I would look myself in the mirror, or I would sit and take a shower, or I'd be on a flight and think about it, or while I was dreaming and sleeping about it. That week, when I was reconciling, wait a minute, it's been me. My inability to tell the truth about how I feel when I'm upset. And even when I'm happy, like one of the things I'm thinking a lot about now is I don't smell the roses for myself, and that leads to my management style. I'm better at being like, good job. Like, I sprinkle it more than I do bad job, but it's not like it's overtly in me. I don't communicate it through words, I communicate it through actions and vibe. When that happened to me, that was the low point of my professional career. That means that I had to reconcile that. You know, all of us would like to think we're good and perfect, you know what I mean? And we know we're not. But when you don't see it, when you don't see that you're spoiled, like when you don't see it, when you're complaining with your friends, but your friends all know that your parents are paying your rent and you're still complaining and they don't have that, they're not looking at you with sympathy. They're looking at you with judgment to your delusion of your entitlement. Everyone's looking through the lens of themselves when they look at you. And even though that person might be right, just because your parents are paying rent doesn't mean your life's awesome. But it's still something we need to like talk about, which is, here's a good question for everybody. What is a flaw that you have that you can't see right now? And that's something I've spent, you know, what kind of really caught me was that's something I spend a lot of time on. Me saying this out loud is something I've done to myself, which is why over my 47 years on earth, starting at 10, 11, 12, 13, when shit like that started hitting my radar, which is weird, which is why I cruised through high school. I was so self-aware. I struggled with no peer pressure. Anytime somebody picked on me or was mean to me, and growing up in the 80s and 90s in New Jersey, that happened every day, kids. I felt bad for them. I was like, I wonder if their parents, like I would paint pictures. I'd be like, oh, this person is picking on me, but like maybe their dad's an alcoholic. Like I would do that at like 15. And by the way, in the 80s and 90s, the world wasn't as aware, but I was. Anyway, that all led me to be pretty self-aware and like work on shit. But this fucking candor, boy, was that hiding. That shit was candor, you motherfucker. You really hid somewhere in there. I don't know where the fuck you were, under my appendix, up my asshole. I don't know where the fuck you were, but you were fucking hiding and I couldn't find you. And the day I found it was a low point because it made me have to rewind 25 years and think through a lot of things and change my perspective.
I love that, the self-awareness is so important.
We all need it. And I'm doing things right now that I can't see. And I'm excited to challenge myself. And I challenge everyone to do it because you will get much happier. Because let me say this, and this will help a lot of people. This is something I've said in the past, and I've gotten a lot of feedback from this quote, so I'm hoping this helps someone that's never heard it before. The only people you're tricking are the people you don't want to trick. You're not tricking winners. You're tricking other people that are losing. So if you know you're doing something wrong, or you're doing something poorly, you might think you're tricking people, you're not. The most self-aware and emotionally intelligent people around you, they may not say something to you. For example, I might be your best friend in my 20s and 30s. I would have never said anything. But I knew what my friends were doing wrong and what they sucked at. I just didn't have the stomach to tell them. And I promise you, your most self-aware, loving people around you, your mom, your dad, your best friend, your spouse, your partner, they're not telling you either, but they know. So you're not tricking them. So you might as well figure out what the fuck you want to do with that.